Hello and welcome to Real Education Television, R.Ed TV, where we deal with real learning, real education, real teaching, real results. On today's episode of R.Ed TV, we are dealing with three very important topics. After several months of taping R.Ed TV, I've been approached by several teenagers who would really like me to address some topics that they deal with in the classroom. I'm very struck by young people who have interest in what's happening in their high schools. On today's episode of R.Ed, we'll deal with student disengagement, student discipline, and student environment. The first topic that is very important to young people in their high schools is student disengagement. I'm really surprised to see that after so many years of trying to clean up school environments, we're still dealing with student disengagement. Student disengagement is basically the idea that young people are not invested in the classroom, and they're not invested for a variety of reasons. But on the outset, it looks as if students are not engaged. But in reality, we may be seeing how students are not engaged because of certain problems. Many teachers are not prepared for students in the classroom. They're unprepared because they haven't written lesson plans. They're unprepared because they haven't done any research. They're unprepared because they don't know their students. They haven't gotten in touch with their students' passions. They're unprepared for a variety of reasons, which leaves a student disengaged. Without a relationship between the student and the teacher, there's no engagement. It's very difficult for young people to get involved in their school environment if they don't feel a part of the school environment. It's very similar to being at home. If you are living at home but you don't feel a part of your home environment, you don't want to be home. A school is just like a home environment. A school is like being invested in your home. So the same way that you do chores at home is the same way you need to help keep your school environment clean. So student engagement is a huge topic to unpack. And one way to do that is to discuss the idea of student engagement with the students themselves. I had a great conversation with a young person today, June Fredericks, our intern for R.Ed TV and Literacy University, and she gave me a lot of insight into why students are not engaged in the classroom. One very big concern that I have with students today is that they don't have a connection with the teacher. Teachers, how can you become more engaged with your students? One way that I choose to become engaged with my students is to find out what kind of music they're listening to. So music is a good way to make a connection with a student. You can listen to their favorite songs. You can discuss their favorite TV shows. You can take a drive through their neighborhoods. Whatever you're doing to make it look like there is a friendship growing there is a really good way to become engaged with a student. Just last week, I had the opportunity to go to a student's baseball game. It was a wonderful experience. For some reason, he was really, really interested in me coming to see him play ball. So I thought, baseball's just not my thing. But what I'll do is I'll show up and I'll be engaged. I'll take his picture. He'll know I was there, and we'll make a connection that way. That was the best 30 minutes I ever spent. He looked over from the field and saw me in the stands, and he was pleased. I could see our eyes met. That was great. There's a connection there. Now I'll be sure to follow his stats and talk to him about what's happening in baseball. I'll even have him help me understand the game. So that's one way to become engaged with a student. Another way that I choose to be engaged with a student is through music. So that's been a really good way to kind of touch the heart of the student by saying, oh, I know Drake. I've listened to this song, or I understand those lyrics. That's a great way to become engaged with a student. Another really good way to become engaged with a student is through communication. So whether it's through emails or through texting, which is not always allowed in schools, but you can still find a way to communicate, whether it's through texting, emails, or some other medium, Snapchat, where you can send various articles to a student. You can engage a student over different news topics that are happening in his neighborhood. You know that there's a new store popping up in his neighborhood, or you notice that they've torn down a certain section of the neighborhood. Become involved in where the student lives, and that's a great way to engage with the student. Another really good way to engage with a student is to hang up the student's work in your classroom or in the hallway of your school. So if your student if John has done a really good job in math class and you saw that you're proud of that grade, hang that test up in the English classroom. Have the student bring in pictures of himself with his family. Where did the student go on vacation? Have dialogues with your students, and that creates student engagement. When a student feels involved in the classroom with the teacher, there's a chance for engagement. So I'm pleased to think about that topic in terms of how to bring the student and the teacher together. And one great outcome to student engagement is the more engaged the student is with the teacher, the less hostility there is in the classroom. When students feel a part of their environment, they're less likely to mess up the environment. They want to keep the classroom clean. They want to erase the boards. They want to sweep the floors. We're all familiar with the stories that we hear from Japan, where in Japan, they don't even hire people to clean their schools. They don't hire janitors. The students clean. The students clean the toilets. The students clean the classroom. The students pick up trash outside the school. That's one way to create student engagement. another topic that has become a huge topic on the forefront of education, and that's student discipline. I'm getting a lot of conversation. I'm having a lot of conversations with young people about how undisciplined they are in the classroom. Sadly to say, classrooms are becoming like zoos. If you watch The Wire, you remember seeing students act out in the classroom. And I remember teachers telling me, that doesn't sound real, it doesn't look real, it's inauthentic. And actually, the classrooms on The Wire are the most authentic classrooms I've ever seen depicted on television. Students throwing objects across the room, students writing on the walls. I've seen students leave trash in places that they shouldn't even be. It's an unsanitary environment when you have students not engaged and destroying their school environment. Why is that happening? Again, having a great open-ended conversation with June. She tells me when students aren't engaged and they don't feel a part of the school environment, why not trash it? Some insight that I found out when having a conversation with her is if the student and the teacher are not on good terms, then the student is more apt to trash the environment. The one idea that I remember from being in my undergrad years in education is students who are engaged with their teacher, they're really excited about pleasing their teacher, and that has a lot to do with how the classroom looks. So teachers, I promise if you're able to come in and put things on the walls, put plants in your classroom, have candy dishes sitting on your desk, put down a rug in your classroom, and create a home environment, your students are less likely to trash your environment. Today I'm here with June Fredericks. She's a senior at Eastern University Academy Charter School, and I'm happy to have June here today. June has been very instrumental in my understanding of how high school students experience the school classroom. June and I had an awesome conversation today about how students can become more engaged in the classroom, exhibit better school discipline, and how they can get involved with their passions. June, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, like you said, I attend Eastern University Academy Charter School. I'm a senior, I'm 18. I'm very touchy about the topic, how we learn in the schools, because this is something not to kid about. We value our education, and then we really need it to better ourselves and go on with our lives.
Absolutely. June, what is your passion?
My passion is acting and directing. I usually focus on troubled teens, things that teens will go through at an unstable house, anything like that, trouble, money problems, anything like that.
What's amazing about June is that she's in the middle of creating a full-length movie. Tell us about your movie.
My movie, it just came out in the summertime. I'm working on the second one now. I'm collaborating with a new producer and director, hoping to reach more viewers and get more people's feedback.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. So we're excited about your new movie, and you're here today to talk about how young people engage with their high school classrooms. And so we had a great conversation about what you've experienced in the high school classroom. Maybe not you personally, but you hear from friends who are Snapchatting in the classroom, taking selfies, talking over the teacher. Tell me more about what you're hearing from students in other schools about how they're engaged or not engaged in the classroom.
A lot of my peers, fellow friends, say that what's the point of coming to school? They feel like it's a waste of their time. They could be at home sleeping. What are they coming to school for? Yeah, so I feel as though maybe they're not learning the right things they need to learn, or they're being distracted, or they're just not fully engaged.
Right, absolutely. I'm really a big component on how teachers have to create student engagement. In order for a student to feel engaged, a student has to feel like the teacher is prepared. How does that happen? The first way that that happens is that the teacher comes to the class over prepared for the students. What do I mean by over prepared? Your lessons have to be chock full of stuff. So there can't be any chance for the student to disengage because there's always something happening. And I spent hours and hours meticulously planning lessons, and that was before the internet. So now with the internet, you can pull in a variety of applications, classroom games. You can do research and pull in some other materials that you can print out and give to students and have them engage in different projects. Whatever it is, what you have to do is make sure that every 10 minutes is prepared, and every 10 minutes students are engaged. Anytime that a student is not engaged, that is the time for students to fall back out of engagement and become undisciplined. What you heard from June today is a glimpse into the high school classroom. You're hearing that students are not engaged. You're hearing that students are playing on phones, Snapchatting, fighting, just basically feeling like their time is wasted. One way to make sure that changes is to have the teacher be more prepared in the classroom. And so that's really good that we're understanding where the disengagement comes from. Another area that June and I had the opportunity to chat about today is the idea of student discipline. So students are coming to the classroom basically just to play around. So they're not disciplined. They're being disrespectful to the teacher. So of course you all know that when I was young, being disrespectful to the teacher was an absolute sin. That was a no-no. But now I know that students are disrespectful to teachers as the norm.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
I'm not too long out of the classroom where I don't know that that is true. I've had students try to fight me, of course. Being in the inner city, that's a common occurrence. Is it supposed to happen? No. Does it happen all the time? No. But is it common to hear that teachers and students fight? Absolutely. Okay? Now this is a real situation. Students are angry in the classroom. Would you find that that's true?
Yes.
So June, we're realizing now that students are angry in the classroom and have the propensity to want to be disrespectful to their teachers. Why do you think that is?
Well, it could be a few reasons. Well, it could be how they came to school, how their morning started, if they're having an altercation with a fellow student in your class.
Right.
if they just don't respect you, if they don't respect what you're trying to teach them, it could be a lot of things.
That's a wonderful answer. That's absolutely right. So after many, many years of being in the classroom, I realized that the anger that I was seeing was not necessarily directed towards me. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes it was. Sometimes I did something to upset the student and I was not aware.
Right.
And I could upset a student in September, and by June we are completely fell out. Why? Because they carried something that I said in September all the way till the end of the school year. So there's a lot of reasons why students may not feel that they respect the teacher or may feel anger in the classroom. The only way to unpack those feelings is to have dialogues with the students, okay? And to make sure that the teacher is compassionate in the classroom. How's that look? Well, it looks like basically what you guys are doing in school, which is having advisory, right? So your advisory time is a great opportunity to have open dialogue and to explore feelings. Hey, Mrs. Slaughter, I'm really irritated with the idea that you wouldn't give me a pencil when I came to class unprepared. Okay, that was a norm for me in my first 5, 6, 7 years of teaching in the classroom. And then I realized, why wouldn't I give the kid a pencil? Isn't the pencil part of the learning environment? I should have 1 billion pencils in my classroom at all times. I don't think that there's any student who wakes up in the morning, gets on the bus, and comes several miles to school or even a couple of blocks after having prepared himself in the morning to get there, who isn't interested in coming. If he wasn't interested in coming, he wouldn't be there.
Correct.
So if he shows up, he doesn't have a pencil, give the student a pencil. What are your thoughts on that?
Sometimes I feel as though they're interested to come to school for the wrong reasons, for their friends, to goof around.
Right.
See a fight, anything. But if they're not prepared, they came for the wrong reason.
Right. And if they're there for the wrong reasons, you'll know it. So that comes with conversations. Having a conversation with the student to find out where the student's head is gives you an idea of where they are. That's great, June. I love it. Another idea that we talked about today was the environment. I'm sad to say that many schools that I visit, in my work at Literacy University, I see a lot of mess. I go to school bathrooms, they're clogged, there's no doors on the toilets, there's flaking ceilings, flaking paint. I don't know that you'd want to put a dog in a kennel that looks that bad, let alone a student in a learning environment. There are some students who are standing in the back of the classroom because they don't have desks. That is a disgrace. How can you possibly learn in a place that looks like a pig pen? What are your thoughts about nasty school environments, June?
Well, I feel as though that's your second home, so you should take care of it as your own home. So the disrespect is a no-no. So like the trash, the graffiti, just punching holes, just making a mess everywhere is disrespectful. Like, where are you getting that from?
And if you think that the students don't see it, you're absolutely wrong. I'm a big proponent in the idea that if you have men and women and children in your school who care, come in on a Saturday and paint the walls. I've painted many school buildings. Clean up the outside of your schools. Talk to handymen and plumbers who could come in and give your school services. There is no way that someone can learn with clogged sewage in the in the bathroom close by. So that's really important to think about. What can people do to make a better school environment? And one thing that they can do is put their hands into the school, put their time into the school, put their energy into the school. I get a lot of teachers who'll say, I spend my own money to make the classroom look good.
Right.
Well, that makes sense. It's your classroom. Why would you not spend the money to make it look good? That's what the dollar store is for. You go to the dollar store, you pick up posters. You can make posters to make your classroom look good. When you think of the top-notch schools where students are paying really good money to attend, those students love where they go. They love to represent their schools. They have school spirit. They're respectful. When you go to their schools, you see beautiful buildings, clean. People are excited to be there. Public schools can be the exact same way, but you have to do in the public school what people are doing in the private school. It's not the tuition that makes the difference. It's the people that make the difference.